Welcome back to my channel. All right, y'all, we have got to get into this because I'm getting started later than I wanted to, and I know my sister Shades the Sage is gonna be live soon. She still plans to do it, but she does go live every Friday night at around 9. So we gotta get this in and get this out. But it's such a hot topic. All right, we have to check this out on YouTube. So hold on. Let's see, who should I? La la la. Okay, ignore the sound. You're about to hear the sound again. Hey, Carolyn. All right, here we go. Okay, just, because it be doing funny stuff. YouTube says you can go live, but I don't think it really wants you to. It just does funny stuff. Anyways, hi, Sister Carolyn. All right, let's get into it. My name is Tiana. I do all kinds of things on this channel. Following my micro-lax journey is the biggest thing, but I am a licensed cosmetologist, hairstylist, so I am licensed to do hair. I do hair, and I have plenty of clients with natural hair, locks, all kinds of fun things. I follow other lock journeys on this channel. I follow mine. I sing a little bit. I sew a little bit. I do a whole bunch of things on this channel, So it's very dynamic. If you're interested in joining the channel and seeing the videos, go ahead and subscribe. If you watch this, please give me a thumbs up. Y'all be killing me because you watch the videos, but y'all don't be giving me thumbs up. Like, if the percentage to thumbs up to watch is ridiculous. Anyhow, if you enjoy it, thumbs up. You can always comment down below. If you want me to know that you're watching, go ahead and leave a comment so that I can see your name, so that I can learn your name and, know that you're watching. Anywho, I was going to, like always, use my phone to kind of see what's going on, but I need my phone for my little notey notes. So I did a little research on this for you all, even though I have my own thoughts, my own ideas, but I thought I'd do a little research. I got a little excited, and that's probably part of the reason why it took me so long, because I was researching things. But yes, so if you've heard about Locs, she was not the first one, but hey, Dad, he was not the first one. Carolyn, she beat you all. She beat you all, and she always beats you all. It's like, not always, but she has been pretty spot on the last few times. All right, this is a popular topic. So this topic just came up recently in a conversation that I was having recently. So it's been on my mind. I was like, oh, I got to address this. I got to. Anywho, let's get started. Okay, so when I was younger, when I was working in the salon, there was this guy in there. So I didn't have many people that I knew at Locs, but I did know some people. So there was this guy in there, and I hope they don't watch this channel, because if they do, they're gonna know what I'm talking about. Anywho, I worked in a salon, right? And in the salon, it was the women in the back, and it was the guys in the front, and they had the barbershop in the front. There was this guy in there, and he was a good-looking guy, but he had dreadlocks at the time. That's what we called them. So he had locks super, super long, and he would always wear a hat. And like I said, he was a good-looking guy, so a lot of women would come into the barbershop or into the hair salon and be like all over him. And I remember one time he took his hat off, and I was like, oh no, because his hairline, he didn't really have, I want to say he didn't have any hair at the top, but I could be wrong, and I feel so bad because if any of them watch my channel, they're going to know who I'm talking about, so I feel so bad. But anywho, so yes, so that was the first person I can really think of who had locks, wore a hat all the time, and people loved his locks, but then I happened to see him take off his hat one time because I worked in the salon. So it was just like a down day. He took off his hat, and I was like, yeah, you don't got no locks at the top. So then after that, I would just be like, the ladies don't know. The ladies don't know what's really happening under there. So that's that. And then as time goes on, some of the people that I knew, not many, because I didn't know many people with locks. Sometimes you would hear about locks makes you bald in the front, and that it makes you lose your hairline and all that stuff. So that is one of the reasons why I did hesitate on getting locks for a while, because I thought about the baldness and the your hairline receding. And I'm like, I already got edges that is like, they ain't even strong anyway, so why would I get locks and make it even worse? And short answer, do locks cause baldness? Yes and no. And yes or no. It depends on so many things. So we're gonna get into those so many things. So, you got any comments, any suggestions, any topics, any questions about this? Go ahead and leave them in the comment section below. But I did some researching for you all, so here we go. First and foremost, okay, this is the first thing. Many people who have locks where you see their hairline receding or baldness at the front, they're usually older people. And by older, I mean they've had locks for years, but they themselves are a little bit older. So I remember learning when I was in cosmetology school, we learned that I want to say like 30, 35-ish, especially like around like for women, around like menopause time, which is even older than that. But there are certain times where our hair like grows really, really fast. And then there's times where, then there are years where our hair growth just slows down drastically. So it's not that your hair doesn't grow, but it doesn't grow as fast as it used to in your youth. So if women and people, and I think men too, but I remembered it mostly about women, if our hair growth slows down around 30, many of the people that you see with receding hairlines or hair loss are in their 30s or older. So that's already a factor. And I feel like people say that locks cause baldness and they ignore the fact that baldness can be inevitable and can be caused by so many other things, not the locks. So we kind of say it as if locks are what make you bald, and that's not really true, although in some cases it can be true. So that's one thing you have to consider, right? That hair growth slows down around age 30. It's not as fast as it was when you were younger, when you were in your 20s and your teens. I think they said like 15 to 30 is where you see a lot of hair growth. So that's one thing that could be causing your hair loss, that could be causing a receding hairline. I have so many people also that come to me and talk to me about medication causing their hair to change. So medication sometimes can cause hair loss, deficiencies in vitamins and nutrients, all of that stuff, that can cause you to have hair loss. So them having locks is not what caused it, but it could have been whatever is going on health-wise that could have caused hair loss. Again, people totally ignore that. And then you have other people who are older, and I mean like older, and people are forgetting that some hair loss is hereditary. Male pattern hair loss is hereditary. Even female pattern hair loss, those things can be passed down in hereditary anyway. And there are people with loose natural hair who don't do anything to their hair who might still experience hair loss because it is hereditary. So it's not that they did something bad, but it's just something that's been passed down in their genes. In the same sense that you have people who could be in their 20s, you have men in their 20s who could just start going bald because that's just something that's passed down. Or people who are teenagers or even kids who have gray pieces of hair in their hair and they have no reason to have it, but it could be a genetics thing. It could be something that is passed down. So those are some reasons why you could be experiencing hair loss, and it does not have to be because of your locks. So you have that anyway. Now, those are just like normal reasons, but you also have neglect, like hair care neglect, like people not taking care of their hair. That happens whether you have locks or not. People don't take care of their hair. So, and then sometimes because locks grow anyway, people kind of, they'd be a little even more careless with their hair because locks grow anyway. So they might be even more careless with their hair. So on this channel, we talk so much about like having a routine. I'm big on having routines. We talk about having a routine, making sure you have moisture in your hair, all that fun stuff. If you are not doing that and you have locks, that could be a reason why you are experiencing some hair loss. So I want to point out that you could be having baldness, a receding hairline, and it could be so many other reasons beside your locks. That was years ago. It was years ago. I didn't say I had the crush. I said the women had the crush. This guy was way, way older than me. Way, way older than me. But he wasn't a bad looking guy, I'm not gonna lie to you. But yeah, there could be so many other reasons why you're experiencing hair loss. So one thing that people forget about is also traction alopecia. Now this is where locks come into play. But you also can get traction alopecia from braids, from twists, from ponytails, from buns, from your styling technique. Like if you do bantu knots or something like that too frequently, too tight, you can cause hair loss. So traction alopecia is just as traction alopecia is common, just like male pattern hair loss and all that. I want to say fun stuff, but it's not fun. But it's common, just like those. The only difference is traction alopecia could be prevented. So if you're not always pulling on your hair, no matter if you have locks or not, you can avoid having traction alopecia. If you do certain hairstyles and you start noticing thinning or balding in certain areas but not in other areas, then you could be experiencing traction alopecia. I think I talked about it before. You know, in my religion, a lot of us, well, not a lot of us, but we cover our heads all the time. This middle part of our head is always covered. And some of us wear the buns a lot in the middle. So you see a lot of breakage there. That could be whether you have locks or not. It's just something that you're always doing, causing tension there. And then you could potentially have tension alopecia from always wearing your hair in certain styles that are just a little bit too tight. Is a receding hairline hereditary? It can be. Many times it is. It could be caused by traction. It could be caused by health. Traction, health, your hair care. But many times it is hereditary. And for this matter, because some people don't always realize this, they say, and I don't even know how true this is for me too, but they say that things like male pattern hair loss, receding hairline is passed through your mother's side. So if you want to know, if you are a guy, if you want to know if you might experience hair loss or your hair might thin out or you might go bald, you know, when you get older or sooner than you want to, they say look at your mother's side. So look at the men on your mother's side and see what their hair is like and their hairline, and that kind of gives you a good idea about yourself. But yeah, y'all, so yes, receding hairlines could be hereditary. And again, some people just happen to have locks. That don't mean the locks caused their receding hairline. That could have just been hereditary, and that could have been why. So you do have to be careful with traction alopecia. Your locks, we do retwist or retie to maintain them. If you are doing it too tight, if you are doing it too often, if you are doing it not often enough, like you don't have a good routine with it, you can cause hair loss because you're not keeping up with it, because you're not taking care of it. So it's not the lock itself that caused the hair loss. It could be you doing it too tight. It could be you going way too long and your new growth becoming way too grown out. Because for those people that keep their locks for years and years and years, remember this is going to include shed hair as well as new growth. And that's part of why the locks get so thick. So, but your roots is not including the shed hair. So if your poor root has to hold on to a lock full of shed hair and new growth, and your root is only new growth and you let it grow out a little bit too long, you can cause tension, you can cause stress on your hair. Another reason why you might be experiencing hair loss with your locks is your styling. So sometimes people wear a lot of, again, ponytails, buns with their hair, and that can cause hair loss, and also your care of it because maybe you're being too rough. I had one client, and I won't name her, I had one client who told me recently that she pulled a lock out. She pulled the lock out in the back of her head. And I'm like, well, how'd you do that? And she's like, I just was being too rough. I don't know. She said she was taking it out of a ponytail or whatever the case may be, but she pulled it out. But again, you have to be considerate of the fact that some of your hair is loose and some of your hair is locked. So you can't just be pulling your locks any old kind of way and feeling like, oh, well, they'll stay on my head. Not true. You could be causing a lot of stress to it. So you have to be careful how you handle it. Even like when I was natural, I had to baby my hair, and I do have to be really considerate about how I move it, and that's why a lot of times I shake it down or I run my hands through my scalp and let it fall down on its own without me constantly pulling it down and pulling it into the part. What about men cutting your hair against the grain? It can, but it would be because like if it's causing like a scarring or a scratching because they are going against the grain, and it could be causing like a scarring that could cause maybe hair loss as well, because now you're damaging your follicles and you're also damaging your pores and things that's in there, and that could be causing it to scar, which hair is not going to go through there either. Or pulling your hair out from the bulb, it's not going to grow back. So you can't pull out your bulbs. So if y'all see too many pieces of hair with that white bulb at the end, that's not good. You don't want to be pulling out your bulb. So those are some reasons. I hope this is making sense, because I feel like I'm jumping all over the place, but I hope this is making sense. You also have to consider that you might have locks, but you have to consider what was your history of styles before getting locks, because you might have already caused traction alopecia and didn't even realize it beforehand. So if you did a lot of braids, if you did weaves, if you were during the terrible time of putting glue in your hair, sewing your hair and sewing those tights, cornrows, things like that. If you've done that in the past and then fast forward to present, now you got locks and you've had locks for a few years, you could be experiencing hair loss and alopecia from your past of how you used to style your hair. So not that you're doing it bad now, but how you used to do it. Hey, Shades of Sage, I told them to make sure at 9 o'clock to tune into your channel and your live. So if you're doing it, for sure, let us know so that we know to tune in. I'm trying to get on here and off of here so that, you could be on too. But yeah, your old styles could be causing you hair loss. So keep that in mind. So not the locks that you have now. It is your past. It's your past of how you used to treat your hair that can make it cause hair loss. Now, can locks over years cause hair loss because they get too heavy, or because they are so long and it's kind of pulling on your hair? Yes, it can. Again, that goes back to your maintenance of it. Do you stay on top of your reties and your retwists? It goes to your styling. If your hair is getting extra long, a lot of people, and this is, again, people with loose natural hair, people with straight hair, people with curly hair, when their hair gets really long, you often see them pull it up somehow. And it doesn't have to be a tight putting it up in a bun or a ponytail. There's all kind of wraps and different ways that you could put it up where it's not tight and it's not causing a lot of tension, but it keeps your hair from being so weighted down. And this is for people with locks, and this is for people with loose natural hair. They do the same thing. When their hair gets extremely long, they tie it up a lot, and that kind of keeps the tension off of it. Now, wait, before I say that, let me finish this. So yes, it keeps the tension off of it. So your hairstyle sometimes is based upon the length of your hair. So if you feel like your hair is getting really long, or you feel like your locks are getting too heavy, you might want to do some updos, but it doesn't have to be tight updos. All updos do not have to be tight updos. All right, so we talked about the fact that you can have hair loss with your locks for a bunch of different reasons. It could be styles being too tight in the present or in the past. It could be past hairstyles that you used to do, like cornrows and locks. It could be you getting older. There are so many clients that I have whose hair texture changes. Like their hair, and then I'm going to get to your comment, Sister Carolyn. Their hair changes. Even my hair, if you were watching some of my videos when I started doing aloe vera, It's because my hair changed. My hair was not the same that it was a few years ago, and it kind of just changed on me overnight. So I had to adapt, and that's what made me go find aloe vera, because my hair changed. And a lot of people that I meet, as they get older, their hair becomes finer sometimes. It becomes looser. Their curl becomes looser. And because it's becoming a little finer, a little looser, it's just like a little more susceptible to maybe either breakage if you're being too rough and too hard with it. But yeah, it's just a little more susceptible because your hair pattern becomes a lot looser and a lot softer. So your age, again, could be a reason why you could be experiencing baldness or hair loss or whatever the case may be. And it doesn't mean that the locks did it. It could just be your hair has changed, or these are some things that your hair was going to go through anyway. So wait, my dad said, what about an older person? Do you recommend locks, or does it depend on your hair itself? I would never tell an older person not to get locks, because honestly, for some people, it may be an easier hair routine to do locks than trying to detangle and comb through and brush and keep up with your natural hair, especially if it's really, really curly. So I wouldn't tell an older person to get locks. And honestly, I've been looking at some people, kind of think to myself, like, I'm about to tell them to get locks that I know are a little bit older, because I just feel like that might be easier for them. Especially like some of the older women, or like maybe like older mothers in the church and things, because they are already so used to having a detailed hair routine where they don't mind like taking their hair and twisting it up or whatever the case may be. And if they had locks, they would only work with the new growth. And I just feel like that would be easier. So I think all right, Carolyn, did I miss something? Okay. Carolyn said, I have fine medium density hair. Girl, hypothyroidism. Why y'all be giving me these words? You know I'll be messing them up. Issues that once caused hair loss. And that her hair loss happened before she was diagnosed. So now she's on medication. She's older. She have locks, and her locks are doing great. Thank you. Thank you so much for your input, because like I said, people are forgetting that some things are happening. Just because you have locks, it doesn't stop life. It could be medical reasons causing hair loss. It could be age, like stuff that was going to happen to you hereditary wise anyway with your hair, and maybe hair loss or hair differences. It could be your body going through something. But she did say that her locks are doing great. And that does bring me to the point that there are people who experienced some kind of hair loss and got locks and noticed their hair started growing in, for the fact that locks are still a protective style, and that locks are fuller. So a spot that would have been maybe more noticeable as far as hair loss there when you were loose natural, when you get locks and they swell up, they kind of cover up that spot and it's not as noticeable. So there are plenty of people who witnessed to, if they had hair loss or baldness or traction alopecia or certain spots of their hair was thin, once they got locks, it's like those things disappeared, because with locks it maybe was able to grow out finally, or the locks itself grew thick enough to where you can't really see it. But yes, Carolyn, thank you so much. I appreciate your input, and my dad has some good questions, so thank you to both of you. An improper retie, retwist could cause hair loss. Of course, if you're not doing it right, you can mess up your hair. But again, that's with everything. Like, you can get a twist style on loose natural hair that can cause hair loss. So my biggest issue is, yes, there are things that you can do to your locks that will cause hair loss. But no, you cannot say that everybody with locks and a receding hairline or baldness at the top, that it came from the locks. That's not true. That is really a misconception. And at the same time, you do not know that person's history. You don't know what happened to their hair in the past. You don't know what happened to their hair before they got locks. You don't even know how long they had locks to be able to say that it's the locks that caused it. So for the guy I was telling you about at my job, I'm pretty sure he was in his 30s which for some men, they could see receding hairlines or hair loss in their 30s. Some see it even younger than that. So that could have been a reason in itself. His locks were long, but I don't know his maintenance of it. I don't know how often he got it retwisted. I don't know if he took care of it when he was just a little bit younger, because he wasn't an old guy. He was just older than me at the time. So I don't know his history. So when you see someone with locks and you see their locks thinning, you see them breaking, you see them dry or brittle, or you see them just not looking a way that you think is nice, you can't take that as everybody with locks is going to look like that. You also can't take it as the locks themselves made them look like that, because that's not true. It really has so many other factors that can cause hair loss. So let's talk about, so I think I gave you quite a few. If I can think of any more, I will let you know. But let's talk about how to avoid it. So if you have locks like myself and you just want to kind of know how to avoid having hair loss, do the opposite of everything I just said. Don't be too particular about getting your retwists and reties. And I am talking to people with mature locks. If you are just forming locks, I say this all the time, but some people still don't quite remember it. If you're just forming locks, you have to stay on your routine more than a person who has mature locks, especially if you're getting retwists, because retwists don't really stay. So it takes a while for your hair to understand you want it to lock. So if you are new to locks, you having every 4 weeks getting it redone, every 6 weeks getting it redone, stick to that when they're new and they're still forming. But once your locks are mature, then you have a little bit more freedom. You can go a little bit longer between your reties, your retwists, and I would advise you to go ahead and do that, not to be so picky about always having a fresh look, and find the beauty in both of the looks, because you not doing it so often gives your hair a chance to breathe, a chance to recuperate before you go ahead and do the next the next retie, or you work on your scalp again. Another good tip is just be gentle and careful. Like I said, one of my clients totally told me that she pulled one out, but she said she was being too rough. She was being too, I don't know if she was putting in a ponytail or something, but she was being too rough. Your locks still are hair. You still have to be gentle with it. For us, extra curly girls like me with 4Z hair, I have to remember my roots are still 4Z. So I can't just pull my hair any kind of way, put it in any ponytail, or rip through my scalp. Like, I still can't do those things just because I have locks. It is no different. You still have to take care of your hair. Be gentle, baby it, care for it, and have that good, solid routine. Also, care for your scalp, y'all. So many people forget the scalp. Don't forget your scalp. Your scalp is important, and your hair will show if you take care of your scalp or not. Because if not, that's why some people have dry hair, locks or not, or brittle hair or hair that breaks. It could be a scalp issue that they're not attending to, or not giving their scalp enough moisture, love, and care, that type of thing. So if you want to avoid baldness, care for your scalp. Learn your hair is a good way to avoid it. You need to know, what is your hair like? What is it not like? What you might be allergic to, what your hair might have a reaction to, and if your hair changes. Because like I said, there are some baldnesses and hair loss that are inevitable, like for medical reasons or for hereditary reasons, something was passed down. And then you have stuff like traction alopecia, which it can be stopped. So I would say, if your locks got so extremely long, or you realize that your reties are making your edges thin, understand your hair and realize, all right, I need to stretch my reties out a little bit longer. Tell yourself that, or your stylist that. If your reties are too tight, change it. Like, there are some things that if you notice your hair changing on a negative side, whether you have locks or not, try to see if you can get to the root of the problem, so that you can start doing whatever you need to do, so that you can have the healthy hair that you desire to have. Because sometimes hair loss can be reversible depending on what it is and why it's happening. Avoid super tight styles. Again, you don't need to wear super tight buns or super tight ponytails or updos, you know, after your retwist. Avoid super tight styles. If it is too tight, you know, to be looser next time. I have clients to tell me something was too tight, and I do encourage that, and I try to keep that in mind, because remember, I'm not you. Your stylist is not you. When I do my hair, I can tell if something's too tight because I can feel it the moment I do it. But when somebody's working on your head, we can't feel it. I can't feel what might be pulling a little bit too tight. So speak up, and not just after the fact, but even in the fact. You know, asking, can you make it a little looser? That one really hurt. Does it have to be that tight? Because it might not have to be. What we see happening and what you feel happening on your hair could be two different things. So I might see that you have a lot of new growth for me to close up, but you could be feeling it being a little tighter. And then, of course, your curl is going to make it be tighter again as well. Wearing your hair down is a good tip. Of course, not tying it up. And making sure that you wear something to bed, even though you have locks, making sure that you're not letting your hairline rub against something while you're sleeping. Still wearing that satin scarf, still wearing the satin bonnet, still using the satin pillowcases, still using those things on your hair when you sleep to protect your hair. For those of us that wear the head coverings, trying to incorporate some satin scarves or things into our hats and into our wraps so that our hair is not always brushing against something that is harsh and that is rough. So making sure that you're taking care of your hair there, making sure you're covering it, protecting it as well. Scalp massages, growth routines like vitamins, oils, water, moisture. Something's in my throat. Those things are important to help you prevent hair loss. So if you're worried about getting it with your locks, those things are super, super important as well. And then, of course, you know, taking care of your hair and making sure that you trust the person that is taking care of your hair. Because I have heard of horror stories, and I know some horror stories of people who maybe got their hair done by somebody, especially at these natural hair salons, y'all. Especially at these natural hair salons that say they're about natural hair and they're not. I've heard stories about them doing things to people's natural hair and locks that maybe they shouldn't have done, and you have to pay the price yourself, whether it's having a bald spot or having hair loss or just your hair not feeling as healthy or as nice as you want it to feel. So you do want to make sure that if you're doing your hair, you know what you're doing. If you're letting someone do your hair, that they know what they're doing too, and that they really, really care about your hair as well. That is it as far as reasons why you could be having hair loss and how locks do cause hair loss depending on how you're caring for it. But let me just tell you this before I go. So if you have any other questions, go ahead and leave them now. It's just two more things I want to bring to your attention, and I think they're pretty important, right? Don't forget to thumbs up, like this video, and all of that fun stuff. So, in my research, so when I went to get locks, I can't cut my hair. So, I wanted to see what would happen if they just kept growing. Again, thinking about hair loss. So there's this woman, if you look up on YouTube, type in, if you haven't already, the woman with the longest locks. I don't know her name, but she did like an interview on something. I can't find her because I'm on a different account. But type in the woman with the longest locks, and she will come up. And then you can see how long her locks are. I think the last time they measured it 6 years ago, it was like 92 feet, okay? But with that being said, before then, I can't remember how long it was, but it was super, super long then. And she still had a hairline, and she still had hair at the top. Now, hers was extremely long, and I felt like mine were ever so long to where they were just too heavy, causing health issues, whatever the case may be, I would comb them out. I would just comb them out. If you have larger locks, it's even easier for you to comb out. So if that's something you're worried about, you can always comb them out to remove that shed hair that is in your lock, and then you can always start a new set of locks if you want to. Or you might comb them out and decide that Now you want to be natural again. So if your hair does get too long, you can absolutely comb them out. But this lady with the longest locks, she still had a hairline. The one that I saw from 6 years ago, you could tell that her hairline, or her hair in the front was a little bit thinner, and it looked like they colored it to make it look fuller. But again, hers is, we're talking about 92 feet. Her longest lock is 92 feet. That's just like, that's super long. And most people are not going to let it get 92 feet. Right. And a lot of people do that, Carolyn. A lot of people just cut it to a manageable length. So yeah, I would just comb mine out to make it shorter and to get rid of the extra length. I also saw another man. I also saw another man. Let's see. I think he was called Rasta. I think if you look this up on YouTube too, right? It was called like Rasta Man with 40-year-old dreads. And he had a good hairline. His hairline was like good. So unless he had a piece on there that I couldn't see, his hairline was better than mine. So it really is all up in your maintenance. And when you look at his, you can see that for at least that video, he didn't have like a fresh retwist or anything. And again, that's just letting his hair breathe. And he had his hair tied all the way up. So honestly, y'all, as far as hair loss and stuff, it is really, you saw him? Yeah, I just saw him because I was, looking stuff up, trying to see stuff. But I just saw him. But honestly, it's really up to you. And we can't say that just because we saw somebody with locks and a hairline that may be receding or them having baldness, that is the locks that caused it, because that's not true. It could be so many other factors. So that's why I wanted to get this video out and kind of just bring that to everybody's attention, because I hear that a lot. I hear people discourage people from getting locks based on that. And let's also be real, okay? Because locks take years for them to get to that long, so heavy length. If you have micro locks, you have even more time because they're so small. If you have a larger locks, you still have good, like you have a few years. Like you have a good 10 years. Usually people with like 7-year-old locks, and I'm talking about starting locks from really short hair. So if you have like 7-year-old locks, you're just then like getting to like a low waist length of locks. That's in about 7 years. You have so many years before you have to worry about whether or not your locks are so heavy that it's destroying your hairline or that it's causing too much weight or tension on you. We're talking about years. And most people are not committed to locks that long. Some are, most are not. And again, let's not forget that you can take locks out. People cut them out. People comb them out. They do all kinds of things. So locks are not a permanent style. It's more like a semi-permanent style. It can be taken out. Sister Carolyn says she has sister locks and they are very light. Yes, and I never really heard anyone with sister locks or smaller locks say that theirs are heavy. It's very rare. I know people with thicker ones say that, but again, you have so many years. You have so many years before your locks become this huge, unmanageable type of thing. Like the lady with the longest locks, she's set on not cutting her hair or taking it out or anything. So that's why she's kept hers and let them grow out to 92 feet because that's just something she feels is right and best for her to do. But most people are not doing that. Most people are not going to let their hair grow 92 feet before they do something like take it out. So honestly, again, if you see somebody with baldness or dry locks or brittle locks or untamed locks, like the roots don't, that's everybody's journey and everybody's process, but that does not mean that locks have to look that way or have to feel a certain way. So I hope this video helps. Any other comments, questions, go ahead and leave them down below and I will try to get back to them as soon as possible, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am right on time. If you have the time, head over to Shades of Sage channel because she should be going live too. Head over to her channel, and if she's not going live, I'm sure there's a video of hers that you missed. So she's all things motherhood over there, childcare, birth, all kinds of stuff. If you're a mother, you definitely will learn a lot of stuff. Thank you, Sister Carolyn. I really do hope that it does help. And like I said, my biggest thing is I've seen so many people discourage people because they mention this whole locks cause a hairline problem. That's not necessarily true. Or locks cause baldness. No more than any other style does. So yeah, take care of your hair and you should be okay. You should be okay. If you notice something not going right, see if you can problem solve it before you deem that it's your locks causing it. It could be so many other things. But okay, y'all. Thank you for hanging out. Hope you learned a lot. Share this video because I'm sure there are people that you've heard say this comment before. So share this video with anyone who you think it might help and tell them, stop trying to discourage you. You're getting your locks. So you can be like me and Sister Carolyn there and anybody else with beautiful locks. I hope y'all have a good night. Hope to see you over on Shades of Sage channel. And don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, all that fun stuff. Until next time, adios.